In the dark, I play my dreams. Permaculture flows like sweet streams. I'm the daddy with the know-how seed. Creating the world like it's meant to be. Permaculture, P-I-M-P, I'm the king. That's in love in everything. Bringing change, making it last.
Welcome to episode 354 of the Permaculture Pimpcast, where PIMP stands for Permaculture is My Passion. The only pimpcast on planet Earth where we discuss permaculture, preparedness, and practical living.
Permaculture, P-I-M-P, with soulful rays. In the P-I-Pimpcast, where we find our place.
Oh, yeah. All right, episode 354. Man, it feels like forever and a day, but we are back with ya. So this episode, as always, brought to you by Hickory Ridge Soap from TwoOldCrowsHomestead.com. Apparently, I don't have my son on board. This episode brought to you by TwoOldCrowsHomestead.com.
Turn that simp into a pimp. Something's going on. It keeps muting me automatically.
Yeah, how about that? Well, all kinds of technical errors when we don't record for about a week. And of course, the powers that shouldn't be don't necessarily want us talking about the things that we talk about. Well, okay. Turn that simp into a pimp. Let's do that one more time, son. This episode brought to you by Hickory Ridge Soap from TwoOldCrowsHomestead.com.
Turn that simp into a pimp.
Bam! There we go. Soil saviors. Yeah, we got a lot of stuff, man. Oh shoot, man. I meant to drop off a box. We went over to Renewed Homestead. We were over their house a little while earlier to drop off a couple of things and totally forgot to bring over the Soil Saviors product. So I'll have to make sure I do that next time. But anyway, folks, if you're in a place where you got to look, I don't care if you got a garden. I don't care if you're working on a pasture. It works in every single setting, and you can't overuse this stuff, so it's really great. It's one of the key ingredients that we used here in Western North Carolina. If we can ever get 2 minutes to rub together, we're going to go out on that site, and we're going to show you what it looks like now, and hopefully it's more improved than the last time we were out there, but that's a whole nother story altogether. But this stuff works, and we got the soil test to prove it. So Soil Saviors, we got that definitely in the description box down below. So here we are. Man, it's been a long week, and it's only Tuesday or Monday. Man, I don't even know what day it is, and it seems like forever that we broadcast together. So how's everything on your end, son?
Pretty good. I didn't find out it was Labor Day until way late today. I had my whole day planned, and all of it involved businesses that are closed on Labor Day. I was going to go to the bank. I was going to go to the post office. I was trying to print stuff off. Yeah. This freaking Labor Day thing has got me all screwed up. I didn't even realize. Yeah, I thought yesterday was Monday and that today was Tuesday. I'm all mixed up on these days.
I'm right there with you. I had to deal with my mechanic last week, and for crying out loud, I said, "Well, I'll see you on Monday." There was some other business I wanted to do with him. I need him to look at this Dodge I have, and he says, "Well, you'll have to come in on Tuesday." I'm like, "Oh yeah, you're closed on Monday?" He says, "It's Labor Day," and I'm like, "Oh." I'm like, bro, every day is like Friday for me. I don't keep up with these federal holidays. In fact, I don't keep up with any of them at all. Hey, want to give a shout out. Thank you very much, Brenda Baldwin. Am I seeing this right? Bodwin. I'm sorry. Sorry about that. Yeah, Super Chat. Driving is not illegal. Only texting is. I'm safe. Well, that's good to know, Brenda. And thank you so much for that super chat. But yeah, talking about Labor Day. It brings me back because I'm a union electrician. Okay. I've been one for a long, long time, and I don't celebrate any of these holidays, none of the federal holidays or any of them like it. So I remember I was thinking about it earlier, and I do every single Labor Day. Of course, you'll get these hardcore union guys. And of course I was one too at the time. And they're like, I don't work on Labor Day. I'm like, well, bro, they're paying. I was a foreman at the time, and it was at the Corvette plant up in Bowling Green, Kentucky. I don't work Labor Day no matter what. That's my holiday. And I'm thinking, because it was an opportunity for us to make like double time 3 days in a row, and I'm trying to rake in the money at the time. And I remember saying to this guy, in fact, I had a whole crew of these guys on there that were pretty hardcore. And they're like, man, I'm not working Labor Day. I don't care what, is going on. And I said, well, let me ask you something. How many times have you worked on your kid's birthday, but then you went ahead and celebrated it on the weekend? And then a sudden hush came over all of these guys. And I was like, yeah. So you see my point? I'm like, I'm going to sit here and lose money over a BS federal holiday that really, and if you knew the origins of it, you might think twice about it anyway. But I'm like, I'm going to sit here and lose double time over a BS. I'm like, don't you know every last one of those guys was at work, and it was on Labor Day. So we made double time, I think, on that particular weekend. I don't remember what it was. It was double time on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. So, yeah, I would have said we cleaned up, but Uncle Sam just steals more of your money when you work all that time. So, yeah, that was a different time in my life, and that's a different conversation altogether. Want to give a shout out, as always, to Renewed Homestead for handling the chat. You know the deal. Don't start no SH, and there won't be no IT. So, I want to thank everybody in the chat. Want to thank everybody out there listening. And it's been a while since we've actually done a show, but son, you've been on the road a while. What have you been up to?
I learned a big lesson. Next time I go out west, like Boise, Idaho, Wyoming, stuff like that, I'm going to plan for some extra time to be off, because there are so many sites that I wanted to see while I was out there, but I was on a tight schedule while being out there, like driving through like Wyoming, where it connects into Utah, because going through Wyoming, you have to drop down to Salt Lake City and then back up to Boise. There's stuff out there. I don't know what kind of stuff, but there's some stuff to discover for sure, because there's these like mountains along the side of the interstate that have all these little caves in there and whatnot. Like, how much information are we missing out just because we're not exploring these doggone caves? I want to find out what's up in there. I wouldn't want to live there, but it's a pretty cool place to visit. I had my buddy with me who's from California, who's learning how to do permaculture consultations and everything. And he was pretty disappointed about Boise, because it seems like a lot of the Californians took over Boise during the whole COVID situation and whatnot. And it was a little odd being in Boise. That being said, just immediately outside of Boise was awesome. Kind of like Asheville. It was like, in Asheville sucks, but surrounding Asheville is pretty awesome. But just got back from a about 2-week consultation tour, and it was pretty interesting. Got a lot of sightseeing done as far as just like from the road. Nebraska is way bigger than I ever expected. It took forever to get across Nebraska. I want a freaking map of the world that's to scale. That's what I want. Because looking at the map, Nebraska is not much bigger than Kansas if you look at the map. But I can get through Kansas about half the time it takes me to get through Nebraska, and it doesn't make any sense. It's all like 75 mile an hour, 80 mile an hour, like roads there too. An interesting thing, and if anybody has any experiences like this, please let me know either an email or down in the chat. The West Virginia, we had a consultation in West Virginia. And leaving West Virginia, so from West Virginia, like Hedgesville, West Virginia to Sevierville, Tennessee, takes 6 hours. Going to West Virginia, there were no issues at all. But leaving Hedgesville and driving to Sevierville, Tennessee, we drove for like over 6 hours and only made it halfway. There was no construction. We didn't stop excessively for like gas or food or bathroom breaks or anything like that. Like, we drove solid for like 6 hours and made it 3 hours into the trip. It made no sense. It's like we hit some weird time warp. Like when we stopped for the hotel for the night, because it started getting dark, and why risk driving at dark? We were like looking at how much further we had to go, and it was like we only made it halfway. So if any of y'all have any like ideas or what's going on with the time warp in West Virginia, please let me know.
Bro, it may have very well been a time warp, man. I'm here to tell you, man, there's something about West Virginia. Every time I drive through there, I don't know what it is about West Virginia. Look, I know there's a lot of deep underground military bases there, a lot of prisons and stuff like that. In fact, for a time, my mom was incarcerated there. And she was also, I've talked about it maybe, I think a little bit briefly. She was also a subject in MK Ultra when she was incarcerated. Yeah, probably directly under Dr. Jolyon West himself. The guy was evil SOB. He was basically the guy. Well, I mean, just look him up. I won't go into it right now because that's a whole rabbit hole that I could go down right there. But Yeah, she was so screwed up that she made our lives a living hell. One day maybe I'll have to go into that and talk about it if people are interested in hearing about it. But yeah, I don't know what it is about West Virginia. You and I were going up to visit Seth Holhouse from the Man in America podcast, and every time I drive through West Virginia, man, it's always a very disquieting feeling. It's beautiful country, don't get me wrong, but there's just something. I don't know what it is about West Virginia, but there is something I get this very uneasy feeling because I know, I don't even know why, but
I know why. I know why. They dug too freaking deep and found that Balrog under the ground. That's what happened, looking for all that coal. Look at like how many towns within West Virginia that people just left overnight.
Yeah.
Like overnight. Yeah, I'm telling you, they dug too freaking deep and found some stuff.
Well, I think they're digging deep anyway, everywhere. When you look at Catherine Austin Fitts and what she's talked about in terms of these deep underground military bases, but when you look at its proximity to DC, it only makes sense. There was a book out there. I've talked about it briefly. Very poorly written book, but it was written by a guy named Chase Brandon, and he was he's basically the CIA liaison for Hollywood. And he was really making the circuits at the time when he wrote this book. It's called The Kryptos Conundrum. And they can do through fiction, CIA people and a number of others like them, they can do through fiction what they can't do a tell-all book about. So they can mask it in fiction and tell you what's going on. And he talked about these people living excessively long times. He had talked about these mag trains that can get you from basically the East Coast to West Coast in no time at all. It was, like I said, it was poorly written in terms of, I mean, it was structured well, but character development, the whole 9 yards. I mean, I guess I was being something of a critic when I read this book, but I was like reading this book and I couldn't put it down because I knew that he was revealing a lot of truth through fiction. And he had talked about a lot of that stuff and what they were doing in these deep underground military bases. But I know that a lot of them, like the Greenbrier, the one that finally hit the light of day when, I can't remember, it was a husband and wife spy that basically, it was like wherever Congress would go whenever there was a nuclear attack. And West Virginia was one of those places, but there's places all over that place that are still to this day very much, how should we say, still under, very secretive stuff. But yeah, I get this creepy feeling every time I drive through West Virginia, even though there's some fantastic people there, beautiful country. It's just, I think you may be right, son. I think maybe they might have woken up something right there in Lord of the Rings, man. So, yeah, very interesting place. But yeah, I'm not surprised, man, that you drove 8 hours and only got 3 hours into the trip, man. It sounds like you guys may have got some missing time there, man. There's something that you could be talking about on the confessionals, I suppose, right?
Potentially, yeah. There was a Hey Alabama said, looking for the most inexpensive places to live. West Virginia will definitely come up. In fact, you can get paid $10,000 for moving to West Virginia. It's insane.
Yeah, there is some beautiful country there, but you're going to I don't know, man. Some of them old boys in them hollers maybe trying to sign on as your proctologist too, man. I've seen too many of those. He got a cute mouth. But actually, the guy that did that was actually he just passed away, by the way, in Deliverance, that movie Deliverance. The guy that they got there was actually from my neck of the woods here.
No, they ain't. No, they ain't.
Ned Beatty wish he was strapped up, bro. Yeah, it didn't work out well for him in that. So yeah, there's going to be a different chapter in that book. But yeah, there ain't no telling what you may come across in those mountains. So,
and it ends. That's how a whole village died. That's exactly how that story ends.
Yeah. Denise says, watching too much Deliverance, Billy. Yeah, I am not trying to get mixed up in any of that stuff, but hey, things happen up in them hollers, man. But it is. Man, I know there's a whole lot of ghost hunters and people to do crazy stuff up in West Virginia, but there's a very disquieting feeling that I get, and it's the only state that I get it when I drive through, is West Virginia.
New York.
I don't get it through New York. I only get that very haunting very troubling feeling just driving through West Virginia. That's the only place it's ever happened to me. And only thing that creeps me out of New York is all the signs telling you what not to do. New York, and then you get into Massachusetts. I mean, every other mile you see a sign telling you, don't do this, don't do that, don't do this, don't do that. And so, whenever I go to those places, I'm like, okay, I got to get on the first thing smoking back home. All right, there was another little programming note. You might be noticing that we're not broadcasting live on our regular YouTube channel. Well, for those that don't know, I've talked about it before, but I'm going to talk about it again. The reason why we can't do it on Permapastures Farm is that it is like they are looking for absolutely anything to cancel that channel. Absolutely anything. Because strangely enough, I'll get a strike on that channel, but William doesn't get one on his, or we don't get one on the Permaculture Pimpcast channel. So for those that don't know, you can go over there and subscribe either there or we're on Rumble. So you can find us over there. But outside of that, I mean, it's just going to have to be in the situation where we have it right now because they're looking for anything. And so I'm just going to use that channel primarily to talk about farming. And it's been difficult to do because we are, like so many other people right now this time of year, we're just juggling a lot of stuff. So let me just cover some of the farm news that's going on out here, doing a whole lot of weed eating. Got the sheep in the area. And folks, this may apply to a lot of you out there. So let's say you got a lot of bramble, briars, and all this other kind of stuff out there. Now, if you got cows, and let's say they're dry cows, well, you can run them through there. They'll wipe it out like nothing you've ever seen before. Maybe some steers would do a pretty good hurt on it. But if you're dealing with sheep, one of the methods that I've kind of devised is letting them go through first. Let them go through. But before you put them in there, if you're going to do any kind of seeding, if there's anything that you want to try to bring up after that, seed it before you let them in there. And then while they're in there eating the things that they will eat, because they will not eat this Chinese silvergrass, they're trampling in the seeds and their hoofs are perfectly suited to do it. Cows will do the same thing. Pigs will even do the same thing. But pigs will have a tendency to want to eat the seeds that you put in there. So it works better with ruminants. So they're going to eat around that silvergrass. They're going to eat the things they can and will eat. But at the same time, they're trampling in the seeds I want. So then I'll go after I move them out of that paddock. Right now, they're on a 2-day rotation. And because of all the moisture we've had around here, they've been on a 1-day rotation, meaning that every single day we move them. I'd say for 2.5 weeks, they've been on a 2-day rotation. So as they go through, they're trampling those seeds in. And then I go through afterwards, and then the stuff they do not eat, I wipe out with a weed eater. And so now I got a natural mulch down there. So that's really one of the best methods you can use. If you're going to put any kind of seeds out there, I got these seeds that I just needed to use up anyway. That's one really awesome way of doing it. If you got some unwanted stuff in there and you want to outcompete it with something like, this is a little late in the season, but, at least here where we are, but it may be different deeper south. You may be able to put in some buckwheat and cowpea right now, and there's not too many things out there that will outcompete that stuff. So that's one of the things I got going on right now. Another thing we're doing is, and look, a lot of folks are just, you got a farm out there and you get things over here, things over there that kind of get ahead of you. That's one of the things we're getting ahead of right now, is trying to clean up the different junk piles. Every farm has them, and everybody's self-conscious about them. Everybody is. And myself included to a certain extent, but hey, it's just a sign you're doing something. So we're working on some of that as well. Another thing is you make a compost pile. Folks, I can't stress the need, and this is why I say managing compost. Just because you got it right and you got to the finish line, son, does that mean you're done with the compost?
No, there's still quite a bit of maintenance that goes on. Not quite a bit, not like that's laborious or anything like that, but you still have to maintain your compost pile. Once it's finished, you can't just like leave it and then walk away from it. You got to like make sure it maintains proper moisture content. Make sure it doesn't dry out is really the biggest thing. And then make sure you're not adding any new materials that either involve potential toxins like anaerobic bacteria or any weed seeds or anything, because you've already gone through that thermophilic process. All that stuff needs to be added at the beginning before the thermophilic process.
Unless you're putting things in there like things that you are reasonably sure that are not going to be a problem.
Like volcanic rock dust. That
yeah.
ain't going to sprout anything.
Right. And every time I flip it, after it's been processed, the reason why you want to keep it relatively still, once you get to the point where you're like, okay, this is about as composted as I like it, that's when your fungi is really, really going to town. That's when it's growing. That's when it's having its field day. When it's hot, that's when your bacteria is doing a lot of heavy lifting. When it cools off, that's when your fungi, and people dismiss the notion of how important that is in your compost pile. Son, every time we've checked compost, I mean, what do we normally find? Every time we've looked at that stuff in the bag or from a mulch yard or whatever the case may be, what is it we find?
Nothing.
Well, there's that, but if we do,
there's
okay,
nothing in there.
do we find any fungi at all?
None. And at best, you'll find, like, from some of that like mushroom compost, you'll find like fungal spores at very best, which aren't active and aren't actively doing anything. It's basically like a chicken within an egg. It's not doing anything. It's just waiting for the right conditions to go on and hatch. And that's at very, very best. And then others you'll see like nematode extracts, which are pointless. If nematodes don't have prey to eat, they're going to die off. Think of it as like lions in a pasture with no prey to eat. They're going to starve to death and they're going to die off and not serve any kind of function.
And that's exactly what I'm talking about managing compost. So you got to maintain that moisture, folks, just because until you get it out there, until you put it in your garden or whatever it is you're going to do, address your trees, whatever the case may be, or, put it in your pasture, you want to make sure you maintain the moisture on that. That is the biggest thing, the biggest way people absolutely lose it. I mean, you've done everything right. You hit the finish line and you think, okay, I'll just leave it here, just put a tarp on it and I'm ready to rock and roll. Man, especially this time of year, you're losing that moisture, so you got to stay on top of it. And then every time, my buddy Steve Hall says, kind of proud of some of my junk piles. Not all, but I'm right there with you, Steve. But, that's a really good sign that you're doing something. Now, I've been over some folks' place where, man, there was, when I say junk pile, I mean, I don't know what function you got a whole lot for of styrofoam on the farm, but I've been to some places where there was styrofoam flying in the wind. So, certain junk has different, value. But yeah, I mean, bottom line is when you hit that finish line in your compost, folks, that's a good sign. That's wonderful. Okay, now you got to maintain it because now that's when your fungi goes to work. That's when it's growing. That's when it's getting septum. That's when it's coming out of spore stage and starting to do something that's worthwhile. So you got to maintain it. So if nothing else, you can leave it put when you're done flipping it, leave it where it is, make sure your moisture's good. And outside of that, you really don't have to do much else. I usually flip it a couple more times. And because that rock dust is paramagnetic, and folks, you have no idea how valuable that is because of its paramagnetism, along with other things out there, that paramagnetic nature of that rock dust will help enhance the life in ways that science really can't even explain yet today. So anyway, went down that rabbit hole because I know it would be helpful for some folks out there. But flipping some compost. Let's see here. Today's the 1st. My birthday was on the 30th, and Michelle made this cake enough to feed a flipping platoon. And I am trying to eat every single bit of it. And yeah, not sharing that cake. It's like chocolate. What do you call that thing, son? That she makes
German chocolate cake.
Yeah,
that is the best cake in the freaking world.
Yeah, I don't know that I've ever. And she made it right this time. She made it the way I like it because she doesn't like coconut. But she, I don't know what all goes into this thing, man. All I know is she put her foot in this thing, and it's off the chain.
There's 3 different types of chocolate in that cake.
Well, all of the above are nothing short. I know it's expensive, but man, it's nothing short of magnificent. Well, expensive, especially right now with, all these tariffs and everything going on. So certain things, but hey, you only have a birthday once a year. So I'm definitely enjoying it. Okay. So we got the sheep in the woods. They're over there doing their thing and they're kind of working between, it's more of a silvopasture kind of setting. And those guys are off and running. Actually had a day where it didn't rain, so I was able to make some more bone sauce for the people that are hitting me up about it. Yeah, we got more at the website. And outside of that, man, it's just like so many other folks, man. Look, Is anybody else sick and tired? I ended up getting a footprint on Twitter. I don't know if that was a good idea or a bad one, but I was thinking, okay, well, with all the junk that they're pulling here on YouTube where they suppress us, they don't let the videos out, I was thinking, okay, well, I probably ought to expand. Stefan Subkowiak told me, look, man, you really need to get a footprint over there on Twitter. So I finally listened to him, and I ended up getting a Twitter account. And I got to be really careful because I'll end up spending more time on there than I should. So I kind of titrate. I'll put on a timer. And when that timer goes off, I don't care where I am. It's, I'm just getting off. But it is kind of helpful in terms of news. And I'm hearing the federal government through this administration bragging about the fact that, this is the best economy ever. Everybody's, making money. Prices are down. And I'm like, okay, y'all tell me in the chat. I don't do a whole lot of shopping. Michelle does. I mean, if we do any shopping at all, it's usually her doing it. But there's time, from time to time, she'll send me to the store when I'm going out for something. I got to get this and that. Look, man, I didn't just step out of the cotton fields, but man, I'm seeing prices that are 2 and 3 times what they were. And these people are sitting here trying to tell me, this is the best economy ever. Everybody's got a job. Everything's going great. Man, everybody I know is suffering. Am I in a bubble, folks? I mean, is anybody out there seeing it differently? Is it just me? Sam, what are you seeing in your area?
Emily and I, my wife, have commented multiple times that there is not a Walmart trip minimum $100 every single time. And it'll be like nothing. It'll be just like groceries for like maybe 2 days. And minimum $100 every single time we go to Walmart. Or a grocery store in general, not just Walmart, just like grocery store in general, every single time.
Yeah, I mean, there's folks out here sounding off in the chat. I mean, yeah, Kim ain't happy about it, and I don't blame you. Steve's like, inflation is insane, more government lies. Go out there and buy some material. I had to go buy a roll of number 10 copper because of some of the electroculture experiments that I'm doing right now. Folks, knocked my junk in my watch pocket when I sat here and saw, because I know what the prices of copper are. Been a journeyman electrician for 30 years. And I could have been able, I kid you not, just 2 years ago, I would have been able to buy 3 rolls for what I paid for one 500-foot roll of number 10 copper solid. I'm like, okay, man, y'all can sit here and lie all you want. And there's so many people that are so invested into this administration, they will not allow themselves to see what's going on. I'm like, man, I don't care who's in that office. I hate being lied to. Don't piss down my back and tell me it's raining, because I can tell plain as day that it's, I'm sorry, folks. I hate to get irritated like this, but the fact of it is I'm sick and tired of them lying to me. As if you're going to gaslight. You think it's not that they lie to me, I think is what gets me. Is that you think I'm stupid enough to believe you that you're lying to me. That's what pisses me off. It's not that you're just, I mean, I understand your government, you're going to lie. And you're going to sit here and you're going to tell me that this is the best economy ever. Look, I don't even do that much shopping, which means I'm paying even more attention when I go after like regular items. For the most part, I'm going after toilet paper and aluminum foil. I mean, we got enough meat out here to feed the platoon, so I ain't shopping for meat. If I'm getting anything half the time, I'll tell you what I do know the price of is the things I haven't been producing. Like, for example, potato chips. I like chips, but I only eat chips that are cooked in avocado oil. I don't eat anything cooked in seed oil. So I got to spend more money for that. But since we don't spend a whole lot of money on food stuff anyway, I mean, I got enough potatoes out here to feed the platoon that we still got to get up out of the ground. And I go in there and I buy this stuff. Now, I know what it was the last time I bought a bag, and I'm looking at a price. There's even less in the bag. And you're going to sit here and tell me that prices are down when everybody I know is absolutely suffering. Everybody. So I guess, I mean, judging by the comments in this chat right now, I guess I'm not the only one. I'm just sick and tired of being lied to. And it seems like, and folks, I'm a political atheist. So every time I respond on Twitter to some of the mouthpieces out there for the administration, so what do you think they call me?
left wing or right wing or conspiracy nut. They don't know what to call you.
No, they call me a liberal. Well, I'm like, you haven't listened to my show then, folks. Because if you would have heard what I said about Biden and his administration, you know what? The one thing I will say was better under Biden. And folks, I defy anybody to prove me wrong. There was one thing better under Biden. There were fewer chemtrails. The chemtrails are 10 times greater under this administration than there. I just turned 55, folks. Okay. I didn't just wake up yesterday. I'm 55 years old. I've never seen chemtrails this bad in my life as what they are right now. Never been worse, ever. And there's not been, I can count 3 days in this current administration where, and then, folks, I'm a farmer. I look at the sky every single day. So don't tell me, look, yeah, they call me left wing. They call me a liberal. I'm like, okay, man, you call me whatever you want. And anyway, if you want a little bit of comedy, sometimes I get funny over there on I've been having a good time sticking the nose of all these sycophants, these Trump sycophants. I'm their worst nightmare, man, because I am having a ball sticking the comedy to these people, especially people like Alex Jones. I mean, folks, I'm sorry to get so raw right now, but I'm like, dude, how is it every single show is about Trump or Elon Musk? I mean, I sat there and asked him the other day on his Twitter page, I'm like, could you please, at this point, I think you could probably tell me what Trump is using on his testicles. Is it Coast or Irish Spring? Because you're down there every single day. I'm like, dude, what is it? Does he prefer Coast? Irish Spring? Is he an Ivory Man? I don't know. But you're down there every single day. I mean, if this dude were to come to a sudden halt, his nose would fly right up his butt. And I'm like, come on, man. Folks, I'm sorry to get this raw. But honestly, comedy is the only thing I got left sometimes. This has gotten to a point where I am just so sick and tired of being lied to. And I don't care if you call yourself, okay, this ain't MAGA. I mean, this is MEGA, maybe MIGA, Make Israel Great Again, but this ain't Make America Great Again. That's another story altogether. And man, I went totally sideways. Son, I'm just going to kick it on. Yeah, Kim says Elon Musk equals Antichrist. Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it none. I mean, this is the same guy that dressed up like Baphomet. Who does that? Who does that? If you know what Baphomet stands for, who even does that in jest? Nobody. That's what I'm saying, folks. I mean, you're being sold a line of BS. If you read the work of Bill Clinton's mentor, it was Carroll Quigley. And Bill Clinton even referred to him, I believe, in the second inaugural address. I can't remember exactly, but Carroll Quigley, he wrote a book called Tragedy and Hope. Just read the cliff notes of that book and what he says in there. That book was never supposed to see the light of day. And what does he say? And I'll give it to you just, I'll give you the abridged cliff notes version. Basically says that they need to come up with a way of making people think that they, quote, threw the rascals out, when really nothing's changed at all. And that's exactly what you're seeing happen right now. But you got so many people, these sycophants that are, oh, he's making America great again. Okay, well, qualify that. Because I know people out there suffering right now when it's all they can do. I mean, people working multiple jobs and still can't put bread on the table. And they're struggling right now to put bread on the table. I mean, we are the exception because we grow a lot of our own food. A lot of people out there aren't doing that and can't do it or don't have the time to do it. They're working a 9 to 5 or working 2 of them, and it's all they can do just to maintain those jobs. So when I hear these blatant lies like this, folks, I'm sorry, it just puts me in a tizzy. So yeah, maybe if it gets bad enough, maybe Alex Jones and all the rest of them will get off these NUTs and start talking about what really matters in this world. So, son, let me kick it on over to you, man. What's going on in your world? It's been a while.
Dad's bringing the SH and the IT over on Twitter. He's bringing everything.
Well,
oh, man.
Well, son, I'm finding out that, honestly, when I mock these people, I mean, there is a place for mockery. There really is. I mean, Solomon got it right. A time to be born, a time to die. Now, he didn't say the time to mock, but if you look at what I'm basically looking at this like the way with the prophets of Baal, who was that? Elijah, where he was dogging him. He's like, okay, where's your God? Is he sleeping? Is he whatever? Look, if you can mock these people, I can gain more people to ask critical questions about things if I can wrap it in humor. And man, there were people retweeting that thing left and right. Like, I mean, there's other like really nasty things I'd said over there too. But hey, there's a method in the madness. So if you can mock these people, you can get a little bit of hay out of the deal. But go ahead, son.
There's a story. This reminds me of a story there's an apocryphal book. So take it for you, well, like what you will. But Abraham, his dad was the chief idol maker for Nimrod. And one day Abraham goes in there and smashes all these idols except for the big one. And then his dad comes home and he's yelling at Abraham like, what happened? Why'd you smash all these idols and everything? And Abraham responds, was like, well, it looks like the big one got mad at the rest of them and killed them all.
Yeah, that's in the book of Jubilees, if I'm not mistaken.
Is it the Jubilee? Okay. Is it Jubilees? But yeah, that it reminds me of that. Of like, yeah. I mean, Dad, you said it. I mean, I don't know how it's other than hopium. I don't understand how people are thinking that this is any better or any different than the last administration.
I'm like, dude, you gave these technocrat billionaires $500 billion as soon as you got into office. And I'm like, say what? This is make what America? And then you're putting up data centers. Folks, this is my world. Journeyman electrician, 30 years, IBEW. If I want, I mean, I got people blowing me up right now, asking me, begging me to put my tools back on so I can go run work at these data centers. And here we are. We got data center after data center. I mean, they can't even find enough people. One of my old employers reached out to me back in Texas asking if I'd be willing to go work in Tennessee. And I'm like, absolutely not. And people blowing me up left and right, wanting me to put my tools back on because they got data center after data center after data center. Why do you think, folks, I've worked on one of the Facebook data centers in Texas. I've worked on so many data centers that'll blow your mind. That one in Texas alone in, I want to say Fort Worth. Yeah, it was Fort Worth. That data center alone had enough computing power to, at that time, to handle all of the world's data. And that was just one. These things are going up everywhere. And you're telling me they're not about to lock us in one giant prison? You're telling me this isn't about to go down? All right, y'all. Sorry, I'm not playing along with that. And I have worked in these data centers. In fact, I was I won't go through the whole history of it, but look, I know what I'm talking about when it comes to this stuff. And you give $500 billion to a bunch of oligarchs who are already wealthy. Why would you do that? Yeah, we're
Palantir.
Exactly. Palantir is just one of many. Yeah. But yeah, Palantir, if you knew what was under their fingernails, folks, you have no idea. But, go ahead and believe this new species of hope and change all you want, but I ain't buying it. And I know there's a lot of people out there right now that ain't buying it either. So please, thank you so much for allowing me to indulge. All right. So Redemption Shield, 10% off with promo code PERMA. When I do this show, I am G'd up from the feet up. And in fact, all the grounding mats up in this house, I've given them independent ground. So I don't have them plugged into the thing. They have these little grounding spikes that you can stick out your window. I stuck them under the screens, put them out the window, got them in the ground. So each room in this house has a grounding mat in it, and some of them multiple grounding mats. But anyway, for the express purpose of being sure that I am not tied into this grid anyway, because there's so much EMF, and partially because of all the data centers they're putting out there. The power is as dirty as it gets, and it was making us sick for a long, long time. Well, one of the ways to get around that is Redemption Shield, 10% off with promo code PERMA. Wave Watch. Every time I leave this house, I got that watch on it. You know what time it is, folks. That watch has like 1,000 settings on it, no matter what's ailing you. I know it sounds like I'm selling snake oil, but folks, I wore that watch for 6 months before I even talked about it. And the thing works. It really does. In fact, we loved it so much we ended up buying one for our daughter-in-law. And so I don't know
Yeah.
if she's using it as regularly as I am, but every time I leave this house, in fact, I was over Ben and Denise's at Renewed Homestead, and I have that watch on every single time because if nothing else, if some hooplehead Marchie comes up to me, it keeps me from going upside their head because it chills me out. But anyway, if you want one, Billy 100 will get you $100 off.
Guys, it does so much more than just anxiety, though. Dad uses it for like 1/1000th of what it can like potentially do. Like my wife wears it like every day until the battery dies, basically. And also, didn't you test it for like EMF radiation and it was good? It was good to go.
I did. Yeah, I did. I took my meter, I took my EMF meter, and I went out there. And I said, "Let me check this thing for magnetic problems, EMF, the whole 9 yards," and it was non-detectable. So, yeah,
It's possible to create technology that doesn't create radiation for us.
How
It's
about
possible.
How about that? Absolutely possible. Yeah. So that watch actually gets it done. So Billy 100, I've tested that thing and it absolutely works. I've tested it for all the things that could be deleterious to health. So yeah, that thing is off the chain. Billy 100 will get you $100 off that watch. It's not cheap, but for me, it's worth every single dime. That's why we bought another one because the thing absolutely does work. And then finally, coming up here in about 2 weeks, East Tennessee Homestead Alliance Festival. That's going to be in Knoxville, Tennessee, September 12th and 13th. I'm going to be out there. We're going to be talking about soil and a lot of other cool things, and it'll be cool to see a lot of you guys out there. So, go on to the good news section.
Oh, wait, hold on. Also, the Midwest Preparedness Project is going to be, I think, 3rd week in September. I'll be teaching how to raise your animals for free, basically.
Oh, which
that out.
reminds me why Bobby is asking me. Yeah. So I usually provide some stuff for the giveaway there. I need to make sure I get that on the first thing smoking. So Michelle, if you're listening, we need to pack up some stuff, send it off to Bobby. And yeah, so you're going to be there. What are you going to be teaching, son?
How to raise your animals for free right before, I think it's Tim from Crunchy Mama Farms, right before he processes some animals. So it's going to be like this focus of this festival, since it's like harvest season, fall harvest and stuff like that. It's going to be focusing on processing harvests, animal crops, all kinds of stuff. But I'm going to be teaching how to raise animals for free, methods you can use, stuff like that.
Well, things that are tried and true, the things that we've done. That's why we were able, folks. I wasn't exaggerating. I'm glad you brought that up, son. We probably ought to circle back around to that because a lot of people, despite, the rosy outcome that they're giving us right now, they're probably looking for solutions right now to raise their chickens for free, and we've provided those solutions. It's called the Chicken Tractor on Steroids. Got tons and tons of videos about it. Your ruminants, we're showing you how to do that, even how to stockpile forage so you're not feeding hay all year long. Other things, pigs, we've raised those for as little as 21 cents a pound. Now, part of that means us doing the processing. So we do it all in-house, folks. And I know a lot of people, as crazy as the times are, despite how many lies they're telling us, we're looking for options. A lot of us are. And things are, I suspect, going to get tighter before they get better, if they get better. So, yeah, that'll be a really good class for everybody to check out. So go check out Midwest Preparedness Project as well. So, good news. I'm going to go quick through this because I don't want to lose. I've spent so much time already talking about other things. Lyme disease cases surge. There is, now I'm not going to be able to publicly talk about this because they will pull this feed off of YouTube. If I told you what was in this jar right now, and that's not urine, even though it looks yellow, but there's this, every time I bring this up, anytime a guest brings it up, some people call it living water. You'll have to look that up. That is one of the tried and true methods as far as dealing with Lyme's disease. So another cool way of dealing with it is making sure you're getting adequate sunlight over as much part of your body as possible. But yeah, this article is talking about how to spot early signs. And there appears to be outbreaks in a lot of places. But son, what would be one cool permaculture way of getting rid of the little critters that cause Lyme disease?
Guineas. And I know Denise over at Renewed Homestead is laughing that I just recommended guineas because I can't stand guineas, but they're really good at one thing. and that's removing all of the ticks from your property. Now, keep in mind, as soon as you release them, they're going to start dying off immediately because man, yeah, guineas just don't last long. They are a disposable resource on the farm. But yeah, guineas will absolutely wipe out every single tick on the property. They have a guinea named William actually after me because they knew I couldn't stand guineas so much. But they're also good, like especially if you're living, let's say you're like a elderly woman living by yourself. They're also good for like alarms. They will alarm you about everything. And then Brenda Bodwin just said ducks too, but guineas they'll venture out a little bit further. Like over at the demonstration site, because they died, there was a flock of guineas that was kind of like neighborhood guineas that would roam around the entire that little neighborhood back there, that little community back there. And I'm trying to think, I haven't received a single tick from that property this year. I haven't gotten a single tick, and there were only just a handful of guineas, and every time I saw them, the numbers were getting smaller and smaller. But yeah, they do a fantastic dent in the tick population.
Yeah, if you got a tick problem, that's why I'm saying, the problem is the solution. Maybe you don't have a tick problem. Maybe you got a lack of guinea problem. Maybe you got a lack of chicken problem. Maybe you got a lack of duck problem. So maybe look at it that way. So that's why I'm calling that one good news, because there is a permaculture solution to that. All right, next one. Landmark study reveals a few simple tweaks to cut diabetes risks in a third. Well, going back to it, they're basically recommending the Mediterranean diet. Now, with what I've learned over the last 6 months, a lot of people have had good progress with that. But people like Jack Cruz, people like my buddy Logan over at the Sowing Prosperity podcast, and a number of others out there, eating local and seasonal is a really awesome way of doing that. Is a really awesome way of doing that very same thing. And also getting adequate amounts of sunlight, which is demonized by the powers that shouldn't be. So that's another good way of doing that as well. And then finally, let's see here. Okay, so Oklahoma has an American First Teachers Test, a bold stand for truth and education. Now, apparently, as I understand this article, Oklahoma, which is where I grew up, Oklahoma has instituted this little, how do we call it? I guess I'd call it a litmus test for teachers coming into the system. So they don't get any of these whack jobs getting in there wanting to do, you're there to teach reading, writing, and arithmetic. Okay, leave your politics out of it. I don't care what you do in your private life. Stick to the subjects. Then that way nobody has a problem. And apparently this test is a way for them to figure out who is good and who isn't. But look, bottom line is, I'm all about home education like I've never been in my life. Son, where do you stand on that?
June will never see the inside of a public school unless she just so happens to be playing sports there. That's my daughter's name. That's the only time she's going to see there. She's not about to be indoctrinated by these dummies who couldn't make it themselves, so they became a teacher. Not saying all these teachers are like that, but there's it's very clear the ones that are there because they're not doing exactly what it is they wanted to do, or they failed doing what they wanted to do. There are, on the other side, I had some fantastic teachers, like Mr. Bush, my 6th grade teacher. He was awesome. He was there, retired military, and he just wanted to teach the next generation. And he did a very, very good job of it too. But that's not the majority of teachers. And and she ain't about to be trained to be some factory worker. There's nothing wrong with being a factory worker, but you don't need to go to school for it. You don't need to be indoctrinated and trained to do that. Maybe factory work, is an option, but don't make that the whole criteria for the public school systems. Not every aspect of the school system needs to be built to turn you into a good employee. What if they want to be an entrepreneur? I remember there was an entrepreneur class that I took in high school. The only thing we did in that whole entrepreneurship class was play Monopoly. And by the end of that semester, we had to make $100. That was it.
Entrepreneur taught by somebody who is not an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So, this is the kind of ridiculousness. That's why I've never been bigger. the one big complaint that I had had from home educated kids before in the past was that they were always very, very, very naive. I mean, anybody could pull the wool over them. And it was true. But I can tell you one thing I did see is they were all highly intelligent. They were quick studies, a lot of them. And so I had to uneducate myself, just like Mark Twain has written extensively about. I had to uneducate myself with their nonsense and become an autodidact. So I had to undo that. And then I had to train my son up in a way to where he learned how to use grammar, logic, and rhetoric, which is a whole nother subject altogether. So, I mean, even if you went through those systems, I mean, I remember when Facebook first came out, I remember linking up with some of the old teachers that I used to think were smart. I got on there and there were so many of them that could not even write a complete sentence. Grammatical, I mean, just mishaps every time you turned around. And I'm like, and then when you read what they write, I'm like, these people are abject morons. They were. I'm talking most of the teachers I had in high school were absolute freaking morons. But as a kid, I couldn't see it. And then later on, I realized, okay, yeah, there was outside of Guy Smith. I don't think I had a teacher in high school outside of him and Mr. Ogle that were worth 2 dead flies. And I look at it now and I'm like, okay, no way on earth. I know there's some good ones out there, but by and large, I've seen some boo-boos in my life, man. I don't want anything to be a part of. But anyway, Oklahoma has decided they're going to give this test. And I'm like, okay, well, I hope a lot of people, I know everybody's not in a position to home educate, but if you can, or you can get in a co-op, or you can make a deal with somebody else, or maybe you rotate between houses or whatever, man, I think that's going to be light years better. They're sitting under freaking blue light all day. And most of these high schools, most of these schools, I can take you to a school right now where they got a giant cross alongside the interstate, and it's a freaking 5G tower at the perfect distance to Kentucky Fried the kids that are inside that school. That's one of many examples that was one of the things that happened during COVID, is that they put up these 5G towers everywhere, and a lot of them were around schools. Folks, it is a toxic environment, and I will not be there, and I'm glad. I could not be more pleased that my grandbaby is not going to be in there either. So Mark T says, what is a guinea? Well, some people say that's an Italian person, but it's a bird, bro. It's a bird. Look, hey man, I think I'm gonna give myself the liberty to get away with that. If I can get on this podcast and say we're all niggas now, I think I can call an Italian person a guinea. But you know that I'm joking. Anyway, yeah, it's a bird that eats a lot of. It's a guinea fowl that eats all. Yeah, somebody's gonna have a field day with that one. But man, I am beyond caring in terms of political correctness. I have crossed the Rubicon as far as caring. And I'm talking right now on this podcast the way I would in regular life if we were standing across from one another. And I don't care who's offended. If you don't like it, oh well. We're bringing things back. So anyway.
These super loud birds with like slick grease back hair. They smell like garlic all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, all my Italian friends out there, they're probably going to get a good laugh out of that. Anyway, I don't care. I don't care. I am going to say, when I have that shirt, and I got one, by the way, Eric has made a ton of awesome shirts. So I'll have to send the one to you that he made. If you're wanting some of these shirts, I'm going to start wearing them in some of the videos and obviously on the podcast. But Eric has come up with some really awesome stuff. So if you want any of the t-shirts, check it in the what do you call it, description box down below. And we got a link for that because he has come up with some really good ideas. And I'm going to start wearing these shirts. Just put them in a washer. I didn't want to wear them right off the bat because I literally just got them the other day. So I'll be wearing those shirts. But anyway, yeah, Kim, I've used all those words, and so has everybody else out there. So I'm not apologizing for nothing. It was like in The Godfather where he tells him, he says, man, I don't care how many, where they're trying to put the squeeze in the movie The Godfather. Tom Hagen, the lawyer for the Corleone family, he shows up out there, and there's this guy they want to give a part to in this He works in Hollywood, and he's one of the directors out there. And this guy, Johnny Fontaine, that was his name. That was the name of the character. He wants his part, but basically, the director doesn't like him. So they send Tom out there to go work on this guy. And then the guy tells Tom, he says, look, man, I don't care how many of you Dago, Guinea, Greaseball, Goomba, Wops come out of the woodwork. I ain't giving him that part. And that's exactly the line straight out of The Godfather. Yeah, ask me how I just remember this stuff. I don't know. But anyway, he says, what did he say? I'm Irish. He says, well, okay, my Kraut, or I'm German Irish. He says, okay, my Kraut McFriend. This guy had it for everybody. So anyway, yeah, I've used all of the above, and Jimmy cracked corn, and I don't care. Jimmy could be smoking crack. Jimmy, don't smoke crap. But yeah, I still don't care. Anyway, with that said, we're going to go on to my man, Eric Sider.
Hey, Eric Sider here with your Pimpcast tip of the day. Today's tip: permaculture in landscape and society. Permaculture design thinking contributes to changes within social landscapes as you define where your local, regional, and biosphere-specific resources come from. Although we look to the past and learn from traditions that worked closely with nature, our focus is very much on the present. It is about integrating the wisdom of the past with present and future needs in mind. Permaculture ethics can be applied to whatever we do in life. Permaculture design concentrates primarily on areas that are already settled. Currently, almost all agricultural lands need a complete redesign. Most of our needs can come from urban and permanent urban agricultural systems close to where we live, supplying the needs locally by the people with local engagement. Soil cultivation in gardens is extremely fast. We can produce 2 inches in a garden every year. So we need to cultivate a deep appreciation of all living systems, because a sustainable system by definition produces more than it consumes. And in permaculture, we look at increasing surplus while also increasing diversity and fertility. In the macro space, permaculture design has moved into degraded areas where broadacre systems have broken down. The urban space per square meter is much more productive than rural. The smaller the land, the higher the production. So we need to aim for minimum land use coupled with maximum diversity and maximum nutrition. We need minimum food miles, minimum food time, and no food guilt. You can find me on YouTube and Instagram at Eric Sider if you're in need of permaculture t-shirts, the official pimp gear of the Pimpcast, or remote permaculture consultation and design. Head over to ericsider.com. And for more information on my permaculture community group and how you can start one yourself, head over to permaculturefairoaks.org.
Well, I started something in this chat here, man. Bullocks unite. I mean, hey, man, we're just going to keep it real, as they say. But yeah, my man Eric hit it out again. I mean, son, what's the advantage of being able to work on a small footprint? I mean, just maybe put an exclamation point on what Eric just talked about.
You're able to give a smaller footprint more attention. So like per square foot, like a 1/4 acre yard is going to yield more per square foot than a 100-acre farm, because you're able to pay more attention to these smaller spots. Like, Dad, how much food was being produced on that 10-acre section in the middle of that 200, well, I guess it wasn't 200, that 120-acre farm in New Boston, Texas? It was a lot. And then most of the rest of the 120 acres was Zone 5 wilderness, or should have been, but somebody else thought it was a good place to put chickens in Zone 5. So that happened. But yeah, the smaller the footprint, the smaller the area, the higher the yield. And keep in mind, the yield is like what you produce, subtracting, and then you subtract the amount of effort you put into it, or it's kind of similar to an energy audit, or yeah, but it's like what you get out of the system, and then you subtract the effort put into that system, and then what's left over is the yield. So Jeff Lawton has a great example of it. He's like, I can create a completely artificial system for these coffee beans, like provide shade for every single one of them, build all these infrastructure, manage, maintain, and everything, and then get 100% production from these, but my yield is low because the amount of effort that went into it. Or I can just plant a coffee tree in the understory of some of my larger overstory trees, get 50% production from these coffee trees, but 100% yield because I'm putting no effort into it other than harvest and planting.
Yeah, it goes right back to that acronym I talked about a couple of weeks ago, TERMS, TERMS, time, energy, resources, money, and don't forget the most important one, sanity. That has got to be lower than the other side of that. Imagine it as an equation, like the less than sign pointing there. And that has got to be lower than the future value, personal growth, and all those other things on there that you may find valuable. So, and it should apply to everything in your life. We'll probably do a show that goes into greater detail about how we go about using that, because it is a really awesome resource. All right, y'all. EMP Shield, $50 off with promo code PERMA. Hey, the biggest threat to your home right now is always going to be a lightning storm, especially when they're sitting here dropping crap from the sky every single day. Got storms popping up out of the woodwork. Who even knows, man? But anyway, EMP Shield, they're going to cover you for 25 G's if anything gets Kentucky Fried downstream. So you want to check out empshield.com. Promo code PERMA will get you $50 off. So why do so many people go right back into the matrix right after a disaster? And there's sometimes I do these shows that are really a reflection of the life that we're living here, because I know other people can relate. I've been, in the course of my 55 years, I've been through a number of disasters. I was right there. William was too, and so was Michelle during the, like, for one I could cite is the one in Oklahoma, well, in Moore, Oklahoma, where that the world's worst tornado hit that place. And it looked like Godzilla walked over it when we walked out of that mall, because for some reason, nobody in Oklahoma puts basements in houses. Anyway, that's another story altogether. I heard they started doing them recently in some of the newer ones, but anyway, wiped that place out. And because of the early warning systems there, it would have been much worse had that same thing happened anywhere else. But you'll find that every single time, everybody goes right back into the matrix. And I'm talking about Western North Carolina, but I know it applies everywhere. And I don't understand it for the life of me. I really don't understand it. It's no different than what I was talking about earlier, where, you know, for example, we just had a mass shooting the other day. At least we're told we did. And without question, everybody believes, even though this government, if they told me the sun rose in the east, I would literally go out and check. That's how much they lie. Name me one official story over the last 25 years that turned out to be accurate. I'll wait. Show me one in the chat, and I promise you I will dismantle it. There is not one single story, official story, regarding anything given to you by the government or the prostitutes in the media that has ever turned out to be accurate. But somehow, when I go to Twitter, I'm seeing people that should know better parroting what they were officially told by profligate and prostitute liars. How does that happen? You were lied to over and over and over, and you just simply accept this? I don't think so. But so why is it when we have a disaster, and I'm here in Western North Carolina, I've told this story, I think, but I'll tell it again because I know that we have a lot of new people, and, you know, we're getting massive people joining all the time in this podcast. So I'll just kind of go back, because I doubt you've heard that podcast before. Son, down the street at Smiley's feed store, right after this thing happened, nobody could, I mean, communication was down. Nobody knew what happened. There was one girl, they're now under new management or new management, or new ownership rather. There was a girl working there, and generally she was a pretty nice girl, and she was losing her mind about, oh my goodness, I don't know what we're going to eat. I don't know what's going to happen. Blah, 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 blah. We got a little bit of stuff in the garden, but she was losing her mind when I went down there trying to figure out what was going on. Now, during that disaster, what I did find out is there are people, and these are sick SOBs, that will literally make up lies. They will make up, people will make massive decisions based on what they hear in times like this. They're making up all these lies, and they were manufactured lies. They were like, yeah, I just left so-and-so and the whole road was out. And then you get out there and you find out, well, that person was a liar. And meanwhile, that might have made all the difference in the world. But there are people that get off on telling lies in disasters. Anyway, the girl who was the one running that place Man, I mean, there was no power, no nothing. As soon as that power came back on, it was right back into the matrix. Now, the power wasn't on everywhere. They were only down for maybe 3 days because they're alongside that major highway that goes out there. They were down for 3 days. I get back in there and say, hey, Caitlin, how's it going? Said, how's your preparedness and stuff going? Oh, everything's fine. And I was like, you could tell by her demeanor, she went right back into the matrix. In fact, so much so that she started criticizing people who were buying extra supplies out there. And I was one of them. I was over there buying more propane and stuff. I didn't need it at the time. I mean, because we didn't have power, but propane was the only way to absolutely, to make these. Well, I was making sure I had more than enough propane. It wasn't like I was taking it from anybody else. I was like, okay, let me get more propane, and then buying extra bottles. So I was actually doing them a favor by buying more of their stuff. And this idiot, and yeah, she is an idiot, she went right back into the matrix the day the power went back on. But she's just a microcosm of a larger problem. I mean, how is it people fight for freedom during a crisis and then go right back into the matrix when the lights come right back on? I mean, I don't get it. I mean, you were seeing, when you were out here working on disaster relief, what did you see?
People are, as soon as there's some level of comfort back, it's like Kerry Robertson just said, it's pure laziness. It's like, okay, we're comfortable again. Yep. We can relax now. And it's a very small amount of comfort that gets people back into the laziness route too. Like whenever I first came out there, the first trip out there, when it was still pretty doggone bad out there, it was shocking to see how many people were all hands on deck. How the community came together. If the community didn't come together, there'd be far more deaths out there. Just from the people who got cut off from the rest of society. Like if they, like we discussed it multiple times, there's one guy named William Pagan who probably got the best footage of the flood I've seen. He's in his trailer, and it's amazing his trailer didn't get washed down the river. But we were talking about that, and he was from Philly, and he said if this happened in Philly, everybody would be dead. There would be mobs, there'd be riots, there'd be like whoever was left would have immediately clicked up and then started like pillaging, basically. So there was that aspect that was awesome, was that the community came together for the most part. They didn't really tolerate a whole lot of crap at first, but that deteriorated very, very quickly. There were a lot of people who very quickly got very comfortable with people bringing in donations. Now, because they didn't have alternate or like they didn't have other options. It's not like they didn't have other options. It's not like they weren't going to work at this point. It's not like they weren't making some sort of income, anything like that. They were just thinking like, these people are still providing stuff for free, so I'm going to keep on taking this and then just spend my money on. There's a lot of new side-by-sides out there. I don't know if anybody's noticed. There's a lot of new side-by-sides out there, and it's not from the government funding, because nobody's received a check for the most part. Like I've heard of one person, and that's Brenda Bodwin, receiving a check of funding from her land out there. But yeah, there's a lot of new side-by-sides out there, a lot of new toys out there, and there were a lot of people who became very, very dependent upon the resources that were brought in for people that were in need. And it was like as soon as there was any level of comfort, like literally as soon as the power came back on, people's brains shut off. People quit volunteering. People quit helping their neighbors. People quit caring. Like when it first happened, we could convince people that this was all manufactured. Like we could show them the evidence. Yes. They would be agreeing and everything. And then as soon as that power came back on, they're like, oh, that's crazy. To this day, I did an interview with Tony Merkel over at the Confessionals. The most popular video of any sort that I have is a short from him talking about the weather manipulation and what happened in Hurricane Helene. And the only people that are disagreeing with what I said, the only people that I've noticed are the ones that freaking live there. The ones that live in Asheville, the ones that live in Black Mountain, the ones that live in Swannanoa are the only ones that disagree. Swannanoa still looks like Godzilla came through. Yeah. It's still a dump.
Well, to that point, son, see, I'm glad you bring this out, because when I take some of the experiences that I've been in terms of disasters and stuff like that, you got basically 3 stages. You got basically the shock and unity cycle, which you talked about. That's initially what happens, where people forget about politics. They say, okay, let's work together. We'll get a community. We'll get together. We'll make things happen. And you'll see some purple hair working with a grandma to go get things squared away. That's stage one. And then stage two, yeah, the government comes in. And then this is what I call the recovery and the normalcy bias. Yes, there is such a thing called a normalcy bias. Government rolls in. People naturally want comfort. And yes, we are a comfort society. We are victims of comfort, as Kev Mo once said. And then all of a sudden we start getting back to our distractions like the TV, sports, social media, all those things. I wonder how many kids were climbing the walls because the phones didn't work or they didn't have access to social media. That's stage number two. And then stage number three, as I see it, is everybody goes back into the matrix son, you laid it out there beautifully. The majority stop questioning how it even happened in the first place and slide right back into convenience, consumerism, dependence, all these things that are making us the consummate definition of the United States of amnesia. All those things happen every single time. And just like you described, and as I described in the beginning, this girl that I described was absolutely on board with every bit of it. And they became my biggest enemy in terms, as soon as her power went back on, it was right back into the matrix. Absolutely right back in the matrix. Well, it happens because you get in these psychological comfort zones. All of us do. And this is why I make myself go through a series of stress every single day. Now, I don't know that I talk enough about this, but there is a reason why, even in the dead of winter, I'm standing out here buck naked, getting sun. I'm dead serious. I do it. I'm memorizing right now the entire book of Psalms. Okay. I know. Okay. It was a lot different the year before last when I only knew 3 of them. Well, this last winter was a little bit tough when I had about 7 down. This winter is going to be a little bit tougher too, because I know considerably more. So it's part of the time that I memorize my Bible verses. And it's also a time where, it's part of not only keeping my brain strong because I memorize a lot of things. Yeah. I don't know how many other people can just recite passages from The Godfather that aren't famous, but if there's a superpower out there, and if we ever have a category for useless trivia, maybe I'll be on Jeopardy someday. But the point being is we get in these psychological comfort zones. We are victims of comfort. And that is probably the chief message that I want to. There's a reason why in the dead of summer, I'm walking across this farm because I live rurally and I am absolutely naked half the time. I'm walking barefoot. I'm sweating buckets out here, literally sweating buckets to make myself appreciate the fact that it could all end tomorrow. Most people don't do that. Now, there's some of us out there, like my man Steve over here, we work in the environment. You don't necessarily have to do that. I do it to keep myself grounded. This is part of why we have so many of the problems that we do. But yeah, we get in these psychological comfort zones where we fear responsibility more than the disaster itself. Of course, we're addicted to convenience, as we've talked about. When the supply chains kick back in, well, there goes resilience. You're concerned about resilience. And then, of course, the media programming. Let's not forget about that. Everything's fine, folks. Go back to sleep, which is precisely what they did right here in Asheville. Precisely. Mm-hmm. And it worked. And then you have I guess I'd call it generational conditioning, where people are raised in this abundance and they don't know that there is another way, and they don't want to know. They don't want to know. So, folks, you got to embrace that. I hate cliches, but I guess I use them from time to time, but you got to embrace the suck. There were times where I would be on the road and I'd be away from my family and I'd have to do this for months at a time sometimes. But when I got back home, that bed, which you may have taken for granted, it felt a lot differently when I laid back into it. It feels a whole lot different, son. I'm sure you can relate to that after having been on the road for a while.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So these lessons that we can learn from this history. Okay. Right after the Chernobyl disaster, I've talked about the Lubka farm and what they did. Well, ordinary folks were fixing what the government refused to acknowledge. To this day, the Russian government, the European governments, even the American government refuse to recognize that there are natural ways to clean up this environment. But you're never going to get it through those means. I mean, look at other things. Great Depression and Victory Gardens. Adversity makes men. Prosperity makes monsters. Okay, Victor Hugo wrote that. And we are in a society where, son, what did you see when you were out there helping those folks? Exactly what you talked about. I mean, put an exclamation point on that. When you were out after this thing initially happened, what were you seeing?
When I first went out there, the very, very first trip, everybody was like foot to butt. Everybody was outside working together, suffering together. Like, I mean, in certain circumstances, bleeding together. And then as soon as the power came on, everybody was gone.
Well,
like there were volunteers that would be like from out of state. The out of state people cared more than the local people after the power came on.
Son, I can take you to places right now. I can take you a place. I'm not going to talk about it just yet, where there are Amish out there busting their butt to this day. I just saw them like 2 weeks ago. The Amish are out there doing this. They don't live in this community. And they are out there busting their butt. But meanwhile, the people that live in that community, because they got all the modern conveniences for the most part, they're just back in the matrix. And I'm like, man, these Amish guys, I'm seeing them out here laying it down. They are getting it done. And somehow I'm like, oh, where's all the volunteers? They've gone right back into the matrix. That's why I'm giving these historical lessons, folks. The Chernobyl, I'm giving one that's recent, okay? Great Depression in the Victory Gardens. What happened? There's a reason why they called those people the greatest generation. I disagree with that, but that's why they were called that. They thrived despite what was going on and despite what people talk about. 8 to 10 million people died of starvation during the Great Depression. Nobody ever talks about those figures. At a time where 90% lived rurally, 10% lived in the cities. What if that unfolds right now? What do you think that's going to look like? You think you might want to get ready for it? And for those of you, my fellow believers out there, look at the Christian tie-in. Okay, how many times did they want to turn back around and go back right back to Egypt after they were liberated? How many times? I mean, I guess I'm making light of it, but you get the point. You literally saw a pillar of fire. You saw the Red Sea open. You got over there, you see manna falling from heaven, and they're like, man, I was a slave back there, but maybe we want to do a U-turn right now. This is why I'm saying we need a serious mind shift. I got more notes here that I would go into, folks, but honestly, I think you're getting the point here. We are victims of comfort. We live in a place where I'm in a position just like everybody else to fall right back into the trap. There is a reason why I haven't used my air conditioner this summer. I got one. I got 2 of them. Upstairs and downstairs. I mean, I got air conditioning. Don't use it unless we got company here. Don't use it. In fact, I wouldn't even use it at night, but you do sleep a little bit better when you sleep in a colder environment. We went through this whole summer with no air conditioning at all during the day, at all, except for when our family was visiting. Outside of that, folks, I mean, we are actually, I'm not saying go through winter and not have the heat on. Okay, I'm not suggesting any of that. But folks, in light of everything, look, they're lying to you about everything that's going on. They're telling you that things are hunky-dory. We got more jobs than we ever have. Yeah, if you don't mind working at a freaking McDonald's. They're telling you that there's no inflation. And even as this whatever unfolds, they're going to be lying to you then. And you better have some stuff ready to rock and roll, son. Anything you want to add to this?
I think you said everything. I mean, one way where you can bring some sort of discomfort into your life is doing that 75 hard program. Like, no matter what, every single day, there's at least an hour and a half of working out. 45 minutes inside. It can be inside, it can be outside, but 45 minutes for sure outside. the first 25 days are fine, but then you hit day 25 and you're like, man, this stuff is accumulating. You start hitting day 60 and you're like, man, I'm really beat. And then you hit 75, near closer to 75, and then you're like, I don't know how I'm going to live without this. Yeah, check out 75 Hard from Andy Frisella. It's a fantastic way to create that stress in your life, and you'll be surprised, the more that's on your list, the more effective and productive you are.
Yeah, like Steve says here, AC makes us soft. I use ceiling fans. I mean, there's a whole lot of other things. Gary Brecka has talked extensively about it. Dr. Jack Cruz, when we, the closer we get to nature, it's funny how I've been decentralized at everything in my life when it comes to my animals, but less so when it comes to me. And that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm like, I'll just suck it up. I've just become adapted to it. And that's exactly what I've done. And so, yeah, don't be flying any drones around here midday, folks. You might get an eye full of some stuff you ain't even trying to see. Bottom line is, y'all, we can't be cage free when a disaster strikes and then be cage raised during the rest of the year. You got to stay unplugged, stay resilient. And in other words, you want to stack functions like a pimp. So you know what I'm saying? Till next time, y'all, stay alert.
Stay alive.
Roots that run deep, wisdom from Saul, permaculture dreams. Let the ideas unfold. I'm moving with the truth. Feeling nature's groove. Who's got the answers? All we need to do, listen to the earth, they got us through. Plant seeds of change, watch the world spin. From the smallest sprout to harmony begin in the cycle of life, where the magic's alive.